my fellow readers. My name is Greg, and this is Ghost Readers in the Sky, where I usually start with the literature and history of the American West, and then I gallop off into whatever direction I feel like. And today we're galloping off into adventure stories for young boys and girls. This is part of the first episode of the Books That Made Me series, where I talk about the books that I read as a younger reader and how they stuck with me and how they turned me into the reader that I am today. So this is a series of adventure novels by Willard Price. Willard Price, I think, wrote 14 of these. The first one, Amazon Adventure, was published in 1949. Yeah, checking my notes, 1949. And his last one, Arctic Adventure, was written in 1980. These are all stories of Hal and Roger Hunt, who are teenage boys. I think Hal is 18 and Roger is 13, something like that. And their dad is a collector of wild animals. They have their own private zoo. I don't know if that's the right word. It's been a long time since I read these. But their dad will put animals out for people to see them, but then he also does a lot of selling animals to zoos and circuses, places like that. This was, I think, in the 1940s, a fairly novel idea, because most of the time, if you went off in search of wildlife, you were shooting them. And Willard Price wanted to encourage young readers to understand these animals in their natural environment and know a little bit more about the worlds that they came from, and also encourage them to look at animals not just with a gun. He says it worked. In his biography, he said he got so many letters from young boys and girls who were positively influenced by his works. I know I certainly was. I did not grow up in a hunting family, but I did grow up in a family that appreciated wildlife. And so these were exotic places. Amazon Adventure, I think, was the first one I read. Amazon Adventure takes place in, you might have guessed it, the Amazon. And Hal and Roger and their father and a crew of people go down there, and they're catching all kinds of wild animals, from small ones to large ones. The scene I remember, and it's from the chapter title. I don't know how many years ago this was. It could have been 50 years ago that I read this chapter title, but I still remember it. You can't light a match on an anaconda. And they talk about how this snake got on board the boat they were on. And anyway, all kinds of stuff happens. There's a lot of adventure around the actual capturing of the animals themselves, getting them into traps safely, getting them loaded into the boats or trucks or whatever it is that they have. But then there's also almost always a villain chasing them around. Maybe it's somebody who's a poacher, or somebody who's just trying to steal the animals themselves, or maybe they want to hunt the animals to get, elephant tusks or rhinoceros horns or whatever it is. So there's always lots of action. I don't know that these would play well for an older audience. I don't know that I would enjoy them if I read them today. I might. I certainly would have the nostalgia for them, and there's nothing wrong with that. But I don't know how well they would play. I don't know how well they were written, but I know I really loved reading these. I also remember South Sea Adventure. When did that one come out? 1952, where they are being chased by the bad guys. I don't remember the situation, but they end up getting lost on a desert island. I think it's just Hal and Roger, maybe a friend of theirs, but I think it's just Hal and Roger, and they're on this deserted island, and nobody knows where they are, and they have to survive, and they have to get, there's all kinds of stuff that happens to these two boys, and of course the two teenage boys, and they are able to solve their problems with the help of some friends, but they're able to find their way out of all of these dangerous situations. It was just a really fascinating series. I don't remember which ones I read. I know I read everything the library had. I remember for sure reading Whale Adventure and African Adventure, and then there's Elephant and Safari and Lion Adventure, and I'm sure I read one or more of those. They all take place in a similar setting. There's also Gorilla Adventure. These are just, they were a lot of fun to read. I read them all, I consumed them all, and I just thoroughly enjoyed them. I don't hear anybody talking about them these days, although recently in a video, Alan over at Alan's Reads talked about the influence that the Willard Price books had on him as a kid as well. So there's at least somebody out there. Maybe there are others who remember Willard Price, but I know that even though they're not things that I read today or have tried to find and collect or anything else, these books that I read 45, 50 years ago have stuck with me, and in very positive ways. And I know it's part of why adventure has always been a core part of my own personal reading journey. I love a good adventure story. But I hope you enjoyed this little introduction to Willard Price and his adventure series. Thanks so much for joining me today, for watching these videos, and just the support that I have from everybody out there in the BookTube world. I really appreciate it. And until next time, my name is Greg. This is Ghost Readers in the Sky. Keep on reading and rereading.